Right there, hello there YouTubers and welcome back. Hello, and today is Sunday, and there's the time and date. Right, what we've got is we've replaced our fuse as we said. We've plugged it into this for the moment, as this is also fused and surge protected. I've got my meter on the negative. Trying to find a way of getting it to stand up so you can see it. It's not going to be very clear. So we now are live all the way to this switch. So let's turn it on and see what happens. Nothing. We turned on. Nothing. Oh dear. Well, we switched everything on. What happened? Well, it blew the 3 amp fuse, so I put a 5 amp fuse in, and then it tripped the main box. Oops. Something's wrong somewhere, isn't it? So we need to go back through and check everything and find out why this has happened. So that's what we'll be doing now. Find out why everything's tripped. Right, we disconnected everything. We're testing the box. I put my multimeter across it too. That lights up, and that showed 240 volts. You have to take my word for it because I'm not playing with this. With hands tied up with cameras and things. So I've got 240 volts across them two there. Turn it off there. Right, so our next thing now is to make sure we wire this up correctly. Right, so what we've got here now, we just turned on the power on there. We've got this wired up to the transformer. Where are we? Yeah, to here. And we've got it the other end that comes out, clipped into our multimeter, which is set to AC. So let's turn it on and see what happens. Nothing. So our problem is the transformer somewhere. So let's test the fuse again, see if it's blown. Right, that's our another fuse blown when we when we linked up our transformer. So our problem is the transformer. So let's investigate that a bit further. Right, now I know why we're in trouble. I've gone and got it wrong again. I've been connecting the wires between brown and grey, which are these two. Blue is the centre tap. Blue to brown 240 volts, blue to grey 250 volts. And I've used liquid tape on the blue. Got it wrong. I did tell you I would share my mistakes. And there's a mistake. I should have looked at the schematic in the first place. See, there it is there. Input 240 to 50 volts. There's the colour of the wires. Input 240, brown, blue wires for 240. And it's got brown, input 240 volts, brown and blue, input 250 volts, brown and grey. Hey? Yeah. So it should be grey and blue. Never mind. Let's try linking it up right this time. See how I got confused. See, it says 240 brown and blue, and it says 250 brown and grey. But when you look at this, it's grey to blue or brown to blue. That's misleading. No wonder. Because the number of coils between them two will be very small compared to one of these to the centre tap. Right, okie dokie. We'll have to write all this down and put a note on the transform itself so we don't get this mistake again. So let's try that. Right, we're now linked up brown and blue. New fuse. So turn that on. Turn this on. Well, we haven't blown any fuses, I don't think, have we? Yeah. We might have done. Let's have a look. This is getting frustrating. Right, we've dug out the other isolation transformer, the one for the American voltage. It's exactly the same. One of the brown or the grey is for the 250 or 240 for the brown to blue. And then I've got the output, the secondary, connected up to my multimeter, and it's all rigged up. And we've got our 5 amp fuse in this time. Let's see if we get the same result. That's what we got. I don't know what's going on here. That's not right, is it? It's on. It's on. Let's have another look at this. I'm starting to go even more bald than I was before. That's blown a 5 amp fuse, and that hasn't worked either. I have absolutely no idea why this is doing this. I mean, you link it up to the mains, you know. I just don't understand. Gonna have to sit down and have a think. There's something going on here somewhere. I just don't understand it. Popping fuses like no tomorrow. I've never blown so many fuses in my life. It's ridiculous. Right, we just linked up the brown to positive and the blue to negative. We've got our 120 volts. And we've got a buzz, very slightly. So that's working. We're going to get the bottom one to do the same. We have success. Blue's negative, brown is positive. And we have a hum. So I think we need to do which buzzing even more. We need to try the grey. Finally, Jesus, I didn't think this was going to be like this. I presume it's the positive and negatives mixed up, what's going in and out of the transformer. This is new to me. I'm no expert. We've got a result. But we've got 245 coming out. I'll be happy with that. I want to test the other circuit though. I want to put in the grey. Let's have a look on the list. Let's have a look. Right, greys for the 250. That would help if it's turned on here. Greys for the 250N. And we're getting 237 out. Just a little bit lower than 240. I'll go along with that. It's not spot on. It should be 240 or a little bit higher, but when you start using it, it brings it down. But 137 volts, that'll do me champion. I'm happy with that. So I think that's probably what the problem's been, is that I've been putting the blue in the red, maybe getting around the wrong way. That's why I've been popping fuses. Lessons learned. As I say, this is all new to me. I've never done out like this in my life before, and I've never ever had any isolation. So those of you who don't know, look, we've all learnt together. So that proves that our transformers are working and everything's fine. And that's the voltages we're getting. Alright, let's now we've got it all wired up. I'm going to mark these wires, which is positive and negative, so we know, so we don't get into this situation again. Right, I put my collapse meter across the negative, and you can see there's no load on it at all. It's just a multimeter, and you can see it's barely reading anything on the scale at all. 0.1 or 2 at the most. Because remember, there's nothing on it, so there's not going to be an amperage draw or any kind. Right, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go and make a cup of tea, and then we'll set all this up again, and then we can have a look at our radio. Finally, I thought we'd be doing that already by now. I bought another little toy. We're going to bankrupt my credit card. But just turn all this off because you don't need it on now. Do you remember me telling you about I'll just get it and I'll show you rather than tell you. Do you remember me buying this? The unit itself, there's just nothing wrong with it at all. It seems to be fine. It seems to do its job as it was designed to do. The issues that we have is with the charging of the battery, which we're going to play around with. Carl suggested something which I want to play with, which is a chip called a comparator. I'm rigging up some kind of charging. Looking forward to having a go at that. Don't really need to do it though, because I do have a proper charger for NiCads, something that I use for my model aeroplanes, because we used to use NiCads in those days. These days I tend to use the more modern, popular batteries, and do a lot more with them because they're a stronger battery, but we won't go into model aeroplanes. So the bits that came with it, if you remember me showing you, they were fantastic, really pleased, and you know, blah blah blah. And then when I started using them, I ain't kidding you, they were as soft. They might as well be made out of marzipan. They're useless, these things. You know, rounded them off at the end. It's only got to slip a couple of times, and that's it. It's through. Useless. Just realised you couldn't see. Useless. And there's the other one. I'll show you again just in case you didn't get that. Absolutely useless. So while I was back in the electronics or the electrical shop, I bought this. It's it was really stand up. It's only really interested in these. It hasn't got a massive selection, but it's got the main ones, the Posys, the Philips, and all the rest of it. So we can use either this one or the Roby. Also some sockets. No doubt the one that came with the other set will be soft as well, though they will work for a while. I really like this. This is brilliant. This opens out. I'm trying my best to not drop everything all over the place. This is a ratchet screwdriver, which you can set for whichever you want. So if we do run out of power for these two, which would be highly unlikely, we can use that, you know. And there are probably situations where get this in better than one of those. So that's going to be handy. And these are hardened bits. Now later on, when I've recovered paying for everything that I bought over the last month or couple of months, Roby do a set of these, more choice, which I'm going to get at a later date. But this will get me out of trouble for now. The security ones, the ones that are in the other ones that are soft, will probably work maybe one or two times for one or two radios or something, or one or two units that I want to open before we bust them up altogether. And as we bust them up, we replace them, you know, with the hardened steel type, which should have been in there in the first place. You know, I wouldn't have minded paying a little bit more money for this if they spent a bit more money on the charger and the bits, you know. But it's there to look good, to induce you into buying it. That's what it's all about. It's to look good. It's a typical trick that some of these companies do to make you interested in buying them. And it's not until you get it home and start using it, and have had it a few months, that you realise that it's not as good as you hoped it would be. Right, okay, I'm going to make a cup of tea, and we're coming back to the bench, and then we're going to wire all this up, and then we'll have a look at our radio, finally. See you in a bit. By the way, today is Sunday. That's the time and the date. It's the 7th of the 2nd. I'll catch you when I come back. Right, I came back after my cup of tea. Watched a bit of The Lady Killers in colour. Oh, it's a classic. I love that film. Really do. So I thought I'd come back here, turn everything on, see if it still works. Guess what? Trips the fuse again in the fuse box. Well, I haven't touched it. It worked before. Why isn't it working now? So I played around with it. Got it working. I put a 3 amp fuse in it. Blew it straight away. So obviously it's going to have to be a 5 amp. So it's just blown a 3 amp and it's just blown a 5 amp. And I replaced the 5 amp. I haven't changed any wiring whatsoever. I changed this fuse. I just switched it on. Now it's working. I don't know if it's because it hasn't got a load across it or whatever, I don't know. I hope this isn't going to be temperamental, because that's all we bloody need. Yeah, sorry I swore there. This is getting a bit annoying. It's a simple thing, you know. It shouldn't be like this. Right, okay. Let's leave it switched on for a few minutes. I'll just I'll turn the camera on after a few minutes. Well, it's been working fine. I turned it off and switched it on again, and it's tripped the fuses again. While I was watching Doug's latest video on his power supply. I don't know what to do with this. This is going to drive me up the wall. You know, if I can't if it keeps tripping a fuse every single time I turn it on, it's going to be no good at all. Not good at all. Gonna have to come up with a plan here somewhere. Maybe put something on the end where it brings the power up slower. I don't know. But you know, it's just blown. It's just blown. It just tripped the breakers. You know, the light's gone out. That was on. This is starting to get a bit of a pain in their butt. This. Right, sorry to be boring you to death with this same thing over and over again, but this is how problems happen, and this is solving it in real time, rather than wave a magic wand and it's all done for you. That's it, it's fixed. You know, 2 seconds on the camera, but it's probably taken a couple of hours. Unfortunately, when you're messing around with stuff like this, it can go on and on and on. And that's life. Life is boring. And sometimes electronics can be boring, unfortunately. Especially when you're stuck on the same thing and you can't work out why things are the way they are and why we're blowing fuses like no tomorrow. I'm glad I bought 10 of each. I really am. Right, so what we've done now, different, is we've now put a 13 amp fuse in there. And turned it on. I'm not happy with that. I want to run a 5 amp fuse, but the load when the transformer initially starts up is overpowering the fuse, so you need the 13 amp to get over that. Once the thing is up and running, 5 amp will be enough, and of course it's that's tripping the fuse. I've just turned it on, off and on rather, and it's working. So let's turn it off. The last time before we wire up our radio. It's off. And see if you can notice that how much the light dims. It's only a split second. Ready? Here we go. Oh, it didn't dim. It dimmed the last time. Right, we just turned it on and off, and it's stable, it's staying on. So that's what the problem is. We need a 13 amp fuse in this thing. Didn't want that, but there you go. Maybe we can put a lesser fuse on the rest of it. 3 or 5 amp or whatever. Right, okay then. Finally, we've got something stable we can work with, so now we're can move on. I put this bit of shrink-on tubing tied round on the grey to note that it is positive, because I can't find my masking tape. I tied it away somewhere. Right, okay then, let's get on with it, finally. Right, it's tripped again, and it wouldn't reset, and then it reset. So what I'm thinking at the moment is possibly we're going to need some kind of a circuit to put in front of the isolation transformer to bring the power up more slowly, maybe. How the hell are we going to do that? I don't know. Because this is going to be a regular thing. Either that or get an electrician out to the fuse for this part and put a bigger one in so it doesn't trip. I'll have to ring them up, because this is going to be an everlasting problem, this. Right, that's on and it's staying on. So right, let's take it a step further finally. Right, our variac is turned down to nothing. This end is safe. It's the other end where the wires are going to cause trouble. So we'll turn on our variac for the first time on isolation. good. Right, and that's working fine, and we're not tripping anything. Brilliant. So that's our Variac up with no load on. So let's see if we've got an amp draw. Not a great deal. Not a great deal. So let's put a load on it. Let's put this light on it. Right, that's up to full voltage on the Variac. And it's in the green, which is good. Our light is working. And our amp meter is reading that. And it's on the negative. If I've read that correctly, is that 2 milliamps? So correct, any of you guys want to see this and correct me if I'm wrong, is that 2 milliamps it's drawing? 0.0 between 2 and 1, so it's like mostly 2. Right, what I've decided on doing is ending this part of the video and making the isolation transformer a separate video, and then the switch on to the Murphy will make a new video. So on this part I will say goodbye. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Catch you all again later.